come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to Minnesota. Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead it by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Malanoski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Brackett throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings long drive left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. This is goodbye. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of the program. I'm Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting. We are very happy to have you with us here on this Monday morning, the first time we've come to you since football season started, on the Monday following a Furman Saturday victory. The first win of the Clay Hendricks era is finally in the books, and it was an impressive destruction of the Colgate Raiders up in Hamilton, New York, 45-14 on Saturday. How are you?
Doing good, Dan. It was a lot of fun going up to New York this weekend. Had a lot of fun on the plane ride up and the plane ride back down, and of course driving around with our crazy radio crew from Syracuse to Hamilton, New York. So I had a lot of fun. Hope you did too.
Yeah, we did. It was a good weekend. Those trips are always very interesting. Furman very rarely flies, depending on where the money game is. That's usually the only time that the football team will fly. And anybody who knows my past history knows that I am not one who's a big fan of flying. And in fact, I went 13 years, I think it was, between flights and drove all across the country to events to avoid flying, but got into this job and it was unavoidable. So I've gotten to be, a little more accustomed to it now.
You seem fine on
Friday
or Saturday. Yeah, Friday and Saturday.
It is what it is. I'm just, part of it is I'm not a fan of flying, and the other thing is that I really enjoy the long drives. I like seeing the country. I like being able to stop if I want to. And
I'm with you on that, Dan,
and see
for sure.
some things. But anyway, I will say this: if you are going to fly, flying charter is the only way to go.
Quite lovely, Dan.
As our college football friends across the country know, you ride the buses from campus. You don't go to the terminal at the airport. You don't do any check-in. You don't stand in lines at the counter. You don't do any of that stuff. Literally, you drive right out onto the tarmac, right beside the plane. They've got all the people there to do all the checking of the baggage and to check you and everything else. And you go from the bus to the check table and then right up the steps into the plane.
Yeah.
When we got to the airport in Syracuse, not only did they have the rental cars waiting on us out there right beside the plane, but the good folks at Enterprise had already started them and had the air conditioner blasting.
It was lovely.
It felt really good.
Even though it was a mere 70 degrees or so in New York, so it wasn't quite that hot, but it was definitely nice to get in there and feel the AC blasting right in our faces.
Yeah, it was nice, and then the same thing on the way back. So, and the bottom line is all of that was just superfluous. The main thing was a football game, and finally we see Clay Hendricks' team. I won't say put it all together because, we did the coach's show last night, and as always, there are still things that...
Oh, you're a coach. Never going to be satisfied.
Yeah, that's what I told him. You're never satisfied. Never satisfied. But the bottom line is this was their best performance to this juncture of the season, and now starting this week at home against East Tennessee State, it is conference games the rest of the way. And we're going to talk about what happened in the SoCon this week. There were a couple of upsets, including NC State over Mercer. So we're going to get into that as we go through the course.
NC State over Mercer.
ETSU over Mercer. Yeah.
Nice try, Dan.
Well, NC State might be an upset as well. But anyway, on the program today, as we continue, we are going to talk more about Furman's win. You're going to hear from Clay Hendricks coming up in just a moment. College football roundup from another busy weekend, and then more from that busy weekend. It's a lot of football here on the program today, and we're going to start with Furman in just a moment. But we always try to focus in on some of the other things going on campus-wise
you got that right.
when we get the program underway, as we continue to try to give Furman fans something they're not getting anywhere else. So what do we got happening, or what has happened over the weekend?
We got a whole host of events happening this weekend, Dan. Starting with women's golf, Furman won the 45th Paladin Invitational this week with a score of 7 under, and they beat Daytona State, who finished second by 10 strokes. So it was a really dominant performance by the Paladins. Haley Harford, she finished at 9 under to finish second. Alice Chin tied for fourth with a score of 4 under. And all 5 Paladins finished in the top 21 for a very strong showing for the women's golf team this weekend at home. The women's soccer team, they went 2-0 on the weekend to open SoCon play. They beat VMI 3-0 on Friday, and UNC Greensboro yesterday 2-0. And it's her 4th straight shutout. And the weekend was highlighted by 2 goals by Molly Dwyer, and Rachel Shaw had 1 goal and 3 assists. So she was accounted for 4 of the 5 goals this weekend for a great start to the SoCon play for the women's golf team, or for women's soccer team, excuse me. The women's tennis team had a good showing this weekend at the Debbie Southern Classic. Sophomore Katerina Kozarov won flight 3 singles, and a great success all around for the Paladins across the board. And finally, men's soccer, they lost 5-4 in double overtime to Gardner-Webb. Lawrence Wyke was named the Gray Griffin Memorial Man of the Match with a hat trick, and all 3 goals came from the penalty box, or from off the penalty kicks. So just a tough loss for the Paladins, but scoring 4 goals and itself is pretty impressive. So you just gotta shore up that back line when they start conference play tomorrow against VMI.
Yeah, I mean, defense had been their forte.
Yep.
When they got off to the 6-0 start, then they lost 1-0 at South Carolina, and now give up 5 goals. They had not given up 5 goals total through the first 7 games.
Exactly.
So I'm sure that when we talk to Doug Allison this week, that's going to be chief on his mind as you said, as they enter conference play. So that's it for what's on campus, correct?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
No events tonight, so it's a day off for the Paladins all around.
Yep. All right. So tell you what we'll do. It's 10 minutes past the hour.
Mm-hmm.
We will get the trivia question for today.
Attaboy.
We'll take a break and then come back and spend some time talking Furman and Colgate and a wild weekend in the Southern Conference, among other places. Going to be talking about the top 25. The new polls are out. Going to be getting into all that from this weekend as well. But let's get the trivia question first.
Let's get it, Dan. The topic is going to be Furman football, and on Saturday we had 5 sacks for our defense. And so my question is, who has recorded the most sacks in a game by a Paladin? A single player.
Single player, most sacks in a game.
Yep.
Okay, that's a good question. If you have a guess, you can leave it in the comment section, depending on whatever platform you happen to be watching us on, and we'll visit that again at the end of the program. As we get set to take a break here, let me remind you about our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. They are the ones who bring the show to you on a daily basis, and I encourage you to go check out what they've got for you. They're located down here in Cherrydale. Great food choices, and I'll remind you again, as the weather is going to start turning cooler, hasn't necessarily done so yet. In fact, we get to Wednesday and Thursday this week, they're talking about highs of 90 degrees. But as it's going to start turning cooler, we are reminding you that they have a great selection of hot soups, hot chili, warm paninis, all those things that seem to be really good on a cool or a cold day. Hot coffee and drinks as well, along with the rest of their menu. Bottom line, great people, great service, and that's what sets them apart. So stop by, see Jeff Massey, my good friend, and the folks at Atlanta Bread, and thank them for their sponsorship of the program. All right, when we come back, you'll hear from head coach Clay Hendricks on his first collegiate win, and much more about Furman and Colgate on the other side as the Dan Scott Show continues in just a moment. Here's more from the Atlanta Bread Company. The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimmented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. Monday weekend wrap up. Dan Scott, Forrest Stulting here. Kind of overcast a little bit right now as we are getting the show underway. I've been here since about 8:30 this morning, and they are continuing to do more work on the turf in preparation for East Tennessee State's visit here on Saturday, which is a 1 o'clock kickoff. And I'm telling you, when you get here, this turf is going to look better than it has basically since the day they put it down. And I talked to Coach Hendricks about that yesterday. He said they don't practice on it much, but they did practice on it once last week after the company had come in and kind of done a refurb on it, for lack of a better term. And he says that they feel like it's playing much better than it did previously.
I know the turf up in Colgate, that was a little wobbly and sandy itself, so hopefully this turf will be a little bit better than what we played on last week.
We will we'll find out, get the report from all concerned this week. Well, speaking of Coach Hendricks, 19 years as a Furman assistant, and then 10 years at the Air Force Academy, comes back, takes over this program, agonizingly close to wins in his first two games. Then you had NC State last week. The general consensus was that he was due and the team was due, and boy were they, as they went and just pounded Colgate by a final score of 45-14. Before Forrest and I talk about it, let's hear from head coach Clay Hendricks after the game. This is right outside the locker room in Hamilton, New York. Take a listen. You got a little bit of a delay here. Now here we go.
Hendricks after the Paladins' 45-14 victory over the Colgate Raiders here in Hamilton, New York. And Coach Clay Hendricks, winner. How's it feel to get in that win column as a head coach?
It feels great. I just couldn't be proud of how our kids came out, played well. Golly, defensively, I don't know if we can play much better than we played against a really productive, hard to defend offense. And I thought they just kind of set the tone for the whole day. And then, offensively, we did a great job in the first half of capitalizing, on great field position, hit a few big plays, and I think we came out healthy.
Great. You did talk about that fast start. That's what you've been looking for. Defense, create those turnovers, and you really capitalized. Did a great job today in that first quarter. Really took command.
Yeah, really. I thought other than the first possession, we missed. I'm trying to remember. I think we missed 2 throws. We had a chance to hit 2 throws. We didn't protect very good, maybe on one of them, but no, we did. And they got the ball out, and started 2 true freshman linebackers, and that bunch is getting better every week. And I think the most encouraging thing I told them after the game is we haven't come close to playing our best. We just got to keep getting better, a little better each day, and if we'll do that, we got a chance to win our share of football games.
Speaking of your 2 freshman linebackers, I think they combined for over 20 tackles, a couple batted passes, a sack, a couple tackles for loss. How about Cam Burnett setting the tone early there, another freshman?
Absolutely. really too many of them. But I told them, you know, we played 4 games now. We aren't freshmen anymore. You've played enough, practiced enough. You know, we need to quit making some freshman mistakes. And those 3 guys in particular, along with a lot of other ones too, but those 3 in particular made it seem like every time I looked up, those 2 young linebackers were making a play. And obviously, if they're doing that, the guys up front are doing a great job too.
And your quarterback, P.J. Blazejowski, really gave you a solid game from start to finish, just what you really expect as a senior.
Yeah, it really did. And then, you know, fortunately, we were able to get him out of there pretty early. Got to play a bunch of guys. I'd like to execute a little better than we did, but those young guys, it was great to let them get in there, and a lot of them really playing for the first time. And but no, PJ had a good day. You know, tried to, you know, we got there and really tried to limit him running the ball a little bit, particularly once we got ahead. But he did a great job making some throws and getting us in the right play. And you know, he needs to play well for us to play well.
Thank you, sir.
That was head coach Clay Hendricks immediately following the win. You may have seen video that they tweeted out on social media from the locker room celebration from athletic director Mike Buddy.
Oh, it was a lot of fun down there.
Giving the game ball to Coach Hendricks. Mike was on the trip with us, and we had a chance during the break from the end of the game to the beginning of the Pepsi postgame show on the network. Marcus and Forrest were in that, I hesitate to call it a locker room because it really wasn't the locker room.
Quite a little shed area.
Yeah, a little shed area. They all crammed them all in there. But just we were able to listen to what was going on, and a loud, raucous, happy celebration. And I told Clay on the show yesterday, I said, you know, we need a lot more of those.
You got that right. There's no doubt about that. The players are really exuberant in the locker room. I know Clay, Coach Hendricks, he was smiling from ear to ear. It was all over, just a great atmosphere down in the locker room. You could just tell the players' excitement over Colgate with the big win on Saturday. So, and to get Hendricks' first win as a Paladin head coach.
Well, just some of the numbers from the game. Furman forced 3 turnovers in the first half and scored off of all 3 of those turnovers. A team that only had 12 sacks all of last year now suddenly has 11 after 4 games, thanks to the 5 sacks generated in this one. And it was a defense that really set the tone for the game. Now, you think about how this thing played out. Both teams punted on their opening possession. First time Furman hasn't given up a touchdown to the opposition on its first drive of the game this year.
Since ETSU last year.
Yeah, and then Colgate hits a big pass play in its second possession down the middle of the field, and looks like they're going to be in great position to maybe draw first blood, except that after the receiver caught the ball, he was hit, fumbled it, the ball popped straight up in the air, and Joe Farrar happened to be right place, right time, caught it out of midair. That was the first of the 3 turnovers. A couple of plays later, we had the 61-yard touchdown pass to Cam Burnett, and then it was on. It was 38-0 before you had a chance to catch a breath, and it was 2 more turnovers. It was big plays. It was short drives. One drive started at their 9 after a Chris Washington sack and strip and a recovery by Chinadu Okonya. And it was just that kind of performance. The second half kind of took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. That's when the Raiders rolled up most of their 283 yards of total offense
in the air.
But it was a great performance on both sides of the ball for the Paladins, and it turned into win number 1 for Clay Hendricks.
Oh, man, we just looked dominant in the first half. I mean, Colgate stood no chance. Just the way our defense played, we really made them one-dimensional. We took away the run from them right from the get-go and made the quarterback beat us, which he really did. He did an okay job. Our corners locked him down, and our linebacker play, too, actually was really well in terms of defending the pass and making them kind of go over the top of us, so we weren't really allowing those underneath balls we have been in the past few weeks. So that was kind of big to see out of our defense. And offensively, man, we spread the ball around a ton. We got Three or four guys with four guys with 3 guys, with 50 yards receiving or more, and Moorhead with 38. So we had a lot of guys involved on the offensive side of the ball, and numerous players running the ball. We didn't get as many rushing yards as we have hoped, but obviously when you pass for 251 yards, you can't really hope for too much on the rushing game. But all around, our offense played really well in spreading the ball around and keeping the Colgate defense on their heels.
And Colgate rushed for 66 yards in the game on 37 carries for a 1.8 average. Furman rushed it 50 times for 140 yards, 2.8, and you say, okay, well, that's not much better, and statistically it's not. And Clay Hendricks, again, said on his show last night that he had hoped they would run the ball better, but he also said that he knew they were going to present Furman with opportunities for big plays in the passing game, and sure enough, that's what we saw. The other thing that factors into those rushing totals, the yards per carry, is taking over in short field situations after turnovers, and you had 2 or 3 short touchdown runs. So the productivity, Wilcox had a short run, Gibson had a short run, Thomas Gordon had a 9-yard touchdown run. So he had that. So you had that kind of thing that factors into it as well. And bottom line is you take what the defense gives you, and you get the win. 391 yards of total offense. Did turn it over twice in the second half. The one was very late, well after the game had been decided, when Deion Sanders fumbled, but forced those 3 turnovers in the first half, and that really set the tone and allowed Furman to build that 38-0 lead.
Oh, you got that right, Dan. I mean, just defensively, really, we own the offensive front of the ball, and so our defensive line really took control of the line of scrimmage and did not allow the rushing game or the quarterback to get too comfortable back there. He seemed like he was almost always on the run, escaping the pocket. So whenever a defense does that, you're doing something right in terms of keeping the offense guessing from play to play.
So that is win number 1. We would be remiss if we did not talk about defensively very quickly. The numbers of Raynard Ellis,
incredible.
It just, imagine how good this kid's going to be when he really understands what he's doing. His first career start, 16 tackles and a sack, 8 solo, 8 assists, 1 sack, and has to be the leader in the clubhouse for the SoCon Defensive Player of the Week when that's announced.
You'd hope so, Dan. I mean, he was not afraid to get his nose at the ball. He was just really gunning for the offensive players. He was just overall strong defensive game from Ellis, a freshman. So he can only get better from here, Dan. So I'm looking forward to see how much he can grow, not only in the coming years, but from week to week this year.
His freshman running mate at that inside linebacker position, Elijah McCoy, also played well. Had 2 passes defended and very nearly intercepted them both. So both of those young guys played well. We got a great push up front with the front 3, Jonah Tibbs, Jalen Reed, and Chinedu Okonya.
Yep.
And that obviously gave those linebackers room to roam. Took their running game away, as Forrest said, made them one-dimensional, and it was a dominating performance from start to finish. Very quickly, as we look at what else transpired in the Southern Conference, there were a couple of big upsets inside league play yesterday. Citadel was off, or Saturday rather. Citadel was off, but I think the 2 surprises obviously were ETSU coming back to beat Mercer, and Mercer blowing a double-digit fourth-quarter lead in that game, and ETSU winning it in overtime 26-23. And then the tremendous shootout they had up in Cullowhee between Samford and Western Carolina. They also had a weather delay that stopped the game for a while, but Western wins that one 38-34, despite Devlin Hodges throwing for 516 yards
unbelievable
in the game.
Yeah. They had no rushing attack. They only had one player with over 50 yards. But Western Carolina, they had a pretty balanced attack. They had 312 passing yards and 290 rushing yards. So that Sanford defense having a tough time handling the Western Carolina Catamounts this weekend.
And apparently I was texting with my buddy Daniel Hooker, the SID for Western Carolina, as we got onto the plane and literally were rolling out to take off. I got one last text in and saw where they were leading and say, hey, did you guys hang on? When we landed in Greenville, I got the response. They won the game. Samford drove, Daniel said, like 97, 98 yards on the final possession. And on the last play of the game, the Catamounts deflected a pass away to win the game, to keep them out of the end zone after driving that far.
That's a big upset in terms of SoCon going late in the year, because I know Sanford's going to have a lot of success in the SoCon this year, but for them to get one loss early is going to help not only the Paladins but the whole SoCon to kind of be going neck and neck throughout the entire season. So
then you have Wofford continuing to lead the charmed life that they're living. They win 27-24 over Gardner Webb. They have played 3 games. They've won them all by a total of 5 points. Then the other game was Chattanooga just obliterating VMI 63-7. So that's what the league looked like on Saturday. And as I said, now we get into conference play the rest of the way as far as the Paladins are concerned. You've got Wofford at 2-0 out of the gates. Mercer on the other end of the spectrum at 0-2.
That's kind of a shocker, Dan, if you ask me.
ETSU is 1-1. Then the Citadel, Western Carolina, and Chattanooga are all 1-0. Sanford, Furman, VMI all 0-1 in the league. So that's where we stand as we get into the meat of the league schedule starting this weekend.
It's going to be a big win or a big opponent this weekend for the Paladins. Need a win against an ETSU team that obviously is coming off a big win themselves. But if you want to contend for the title, you cannot afford a loss at home, especially to an ETSU team that probably will not tend for the SoCon title in later weeks.
All right, we're going to step aside for another break, and when we come back, we will take a look at Forest 3 Things, which is going to include a heavy dose of more college football. Before we step out, just a reminder about our friends at CPR Cell Phone Repair in Cherrydale Plaza. If you have a busted phone screen like I did, I highly suggest you go see Janet Culver and our friends at CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale. I have an iPhone, as you can see here. They got my screen repaired or replaced in about 30 minutes. They say they can do an iPhone in an hour. They got mine done in less time than that. Any other phone, tablet, brand, make, just about everything that's out there, they can do, and they usually get it done same day. They also sell refurbished phones and tablets and sell new accessories for all phones and tablets. So don't forget, they can do repairs on computers and gaming systems as well, and not just the screens, but also can replace the hard drives. You see the number on the screen, 282-9097, 864-282-9097, CPR Cell Phone Repair. Also check out their Facebook page located in Cherrydale Plaza, and thank them for hopping on board with us. We'll be back with more on the Dan Scott Show. Forest 3 Things coming up after this.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimiented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR cell phone repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR cell phone repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Welcome back to the show as we continue here on this Monday, wrapping up a weekend full of college football, among other things. Word about our friends at Hall's Chop House, the Greenville Steakhouse, located right downtown, very convenient. You know how great the food is, but do you know that they have several different rooms, large rooms on site that will be perfect for Christmas parties, corporate events, private get-togethers, whatever the case may be. They have the room for you, and of course they have the menu that will absolutely knock your socks off. The steaks are fantastic, the people are great, and again, they're conveniently located right in downtown Greenville. That is Hall's Chop House, a sponsor here on the program. Billy and the folks also have the location down in Charleston.
They do.
Where
the original location,
where they originated. Yeah, so you can also visit them down there if you're traveling. All right, let's get to it. Three things, and I'm assuming college football looms large in your legend right out of the chute.
Oh, you got that right, Dan. Going to start with top 25 here, and especially the top 5. The number 1 overall team in the country, Alabama, they waxed Vanderbilt 59-0. That Bama defense gave up 38 yards of passing and 40 yards of rushing. So it's really shut down that Vanderbilt offense. And
yeah, and what was it? Was it Vandy's their social media account last week after they beat Kansas State said we want Alabama?
That's right. And most of their fans were in that same sentiment as well, Dan.
They got them.
They sure did get them, man. and Alabama gave them a statement. I think this clearly says that they're the best team in the country right now.
Well, see, there you go again. They were the best team in Nashville.
Fair enough.
For sure.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Yep. Just in the Bama rushing, they had 496 yards on the ground, and they had, count it, 6 players outrush Vanderbilt.
6 individual players.
6 individual players outrush Vanderbilt themselves. So just a really impressive showing by the Crimson Tide. Clemson this weekend, they played BC. They won 34-7. They struggled for most of the game. They put 27 points in the fourth quarter. And I think half their yards came in that fourth quarter. And a really impressive showing by a freshman running back, Travis Etienne. Just an incredible player right there. And really explosive, and really showed his strength this weekend, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, you recall at the end of the Louisville game, or not the end of the Louisville game, but in the Louisville game, he had the huge touchdown run in which he displayed the speed that he has. The thing is, as I got back and kind of looked up some of the numbers about the flow of that game, a couple of things. Number one, there's something about Clemson and Boston College that lends itself to that kind of game, and it's been that way since Boston College came into the ACC in 2005, and seems like every team has one of those opponents. The other thing is Clemson's offense turned it over 4 times.
They did.
And put the defense in an awful lot of very, very tenuous situations, and yet Boston College couldn't score until they finally punched one in the third quarter, and that kind of apparently served as the wake-up call
I think so.
for Clemson's
Yeah.
offense. So
Their defense did perform phenomenally this weekend. Their offense did struggle. Kelly Bryant threw 2 INTs, so not his best weekend, but he's still pretty efficient in the passing game as well.
yeah, the defense also forced 3 turnovers in that game.
Moving on, Oklahoma, they had a pretty tough test this weekend against Baylor. They escaped the Bears 49-41 down in Waco, Texas. Baker Mayfield had a strong game, 13 for 19, 283 yards. And really the Sooners' rushing game came to run. They had 2 players with over 100 yards. Trey Sermon, along with Abdul Adams, both rushed for over 100 yards, almost got to the 150-yard mark each. Penn State.
Can I say something about the Oklahoma-Baylor game?
Please, yeah, absolutely.
Mayfield, you saw kind of the best and worst of him. The numbers were good. He almost cost his team a touchdown in a situation where he allowed his exuberance to get the best of him, and as a quarterback drew an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after a play that set his team back 15 yards, and then turned around on the next play and threw a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So you saw kind of the best and worst of Baker Mayfield, but
he's had a couple of times this year where he's really shown his true character and not his best character, especially at the Ohio State game. They're spiking the flag into the middle of the field. So,
but they held on. But I think everybody was really surprised. I mean, that game is a lot closer than anybody imagined it would be.
Oh, I'd say so. I mean, Baylor lost to Liberty earlier this year, so they're fighting Jerry Falwell's.
What else you got?
Moving on, Penn State, they escaped Iowa, man. They had a minute and 42-second drive to end the game, and the touchdown pass from Trace McSorley was caught at as time expired. But the MVP in that game for me was Saquon Barkley. He had 211 rushing yards and 1 TD. And, man, if you just see this man run, he is incredible, Dan. He can do anything on the football field. He can spin move. He can hurdle you. He's got some speed to go up the middle and also to power through the offensive line, the defensive line to get the 2 or 3 yards needed. So just a really impressive night for Barkley and the Penn State Nittany Lions, and impressive for them to come back with only a minute 42 remaining in the game.
Yeah, the big highlight from him was him leaping over a would-be tackler, and McSorley played well.
He did.
At the quarterback spot.
Yeah.
31 out of 48, 284, a touchdown and 1 pick. So they found themselves obviously in a tussle, and they weren't the only ones this weekend. How about Kentucky blowing that lead to Florida? Just ridiculous.
Did you see the last play where the Florida receiver was wide open on the flat out there? There's not a Wildcat defender within 15 yards of him. It was unbelievable. So just a lapse of judgment on the Wildcats' part, and really the biggest spot of the game, up by 6. So you can't really find yourself not guarding a receiver out there when they're on the 3-yard line, I believe. So just bad showing for the Wildcats. Last play.
Yeah, Mark Stoops and the defensive coordinator are gonna obviously be spending some time together trying to figure out what happened there. I mean, that's just, you got one receiver split wide, everything else is tight, and you don't cover the one guy who's.
How's no one see him out there anyways? I just don't understand that. I mean, in Florida, they're not known for having electrifying QBs as of late, and so this is about as easy a pass as Jack Del Rio is going to have all year for the Gators.
Well.
And they've been the luckiest team in the past 2 weeks, too. They had one on the last second touchdown pass against Tennessee. So something in the water down in Gainesville is getting the Gators some wins.
Yeah, better be lucky than good, they say.
You got that right. Well, USC beat Cal 30-20. Sam Darnold had a pretty good game, 26 of 38, 223 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. And Washington handled Colorado 37-10 down in Colorado. Pretty impressive win by the Huskies here. Thought this would be a lot closer than it was. And the Buffalo had a 7-0 lead in the first quarter, but then the Washington offense went up and put 10 points in the second, 14 in the third, and 13 in the fourth. So they kind of ran away with that late. Probably the two biggest surprises for me this weekend, though, Dan, was how bad Georgia beat Mississippi State 31-3, and then TCU beat Oklahoma State 44-31. So let's start with the Georgia game. Talk about that. They really shut down Nick Fitzgerald offensively. He only had 83 yards passing and 47 yards rushing, and so that really is the game plan going into each week when you're facing the Mississippi State Bulldogs. If you can contain Nick Fitzgerald, you're going to have a good chance of winning that ball game. And the Georgia rushers, Nick Chubb especially, at 81 yards. Then DeAndre Swift had a pretty good rushing game as well for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and then the freshman quarterback from they didn't ask him to throw it often, but when they did, he was very good. 9 out of 12, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it's funny how these things happen. An injury gives the kid a chance, and he steps in, and he has taken a stranglehold on that job from Eason. And now there's already speculation that Eason may end up transferring out of the Georgia program and end up with Mark Richt down in Miami. Now, whether or not that happens, who knows? But that was some of the scuttlebutt that was being kicked around after that game yesterday or Saturday. But Fromm has stepped in that situation and has shown himself to be able to, at the very least, manage the offense. They haven't asked him to win a game yet, but he has not made the big mistake. And like I say, 9 out of 12, 201 yards. That's a very good showing for the young guy.
That's a good yards per catch right there, Dan, if you ask me. So, in the Oklahoma State game, TCU kept Oklahoma State off balance a little bit. They did Oklahoma State pass and Mason Rudolph pass for 398 yards, but only allowed one rusher to get over 100 yards for the Cowboys, and that was Justice Hill with 102. But the balance on offense by TCU was incredible. 228 yards passing by Kenny Hill. And then Darius Anderson of the Horned Frogs rushed for 160 yards. And, man, he had some explosive plays up the middle with great bursts of speed. And one thing to note about this Oklahoma State team, they were without their right guard and their right tackle. So tough for them offensively to kind of keep the Horned Frogs out of the backfield. And the Horned Frogs did get a few sacks against that offensive line, 3 total. So, and then also Mason Rudolph turned the ball over 3 times, 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. So, not a good showing for your Heisman hopeful quarterback, even though he did throw for 398 yards and 2 TDs.
Yeah, it's interesting in reading the game recap here. The folks at TCU kind of felt like they were a little underappreciated nationally coming into this game, and judging by some of the comments from the players, and even a little bit by head coach Gary Patterson after the game, in his kind of understated way, saying we want to be relevant. Knocking off the number 6 team in the country will do that, and I think that everybody knows who TCU is, and more importantly, who Gary Patterson is and what he's about and what he's done with that program down there. But that is a really, really good early season win for them inside that Big 12. And as we saw, and we'll probably talk about here momentarily, they made a huge jump in the polls based off of that win.
Yep. Before we get to that, I just want to say NC State did beat Florida State 27-21. And Florida State's freshman quarterback did a pretty good job. James Blackman threw for 278 yards and 1 TD, so you can't really blame him too much. But the Florida State rushing game was really nullified this week, and only 104 yards of rushing. And North Carolina State really spread the ball around offensively. 230 yards passing for Ryan Finley, and Nyheim Hines had 94 yards rushing. So good performance by the Wolfpack.
And Florida State finds itself out of the Associated Press poll for the first time since 2011. They dropped from number 12 all the way out of the poll.
And they're 0-2 for the first time since 1989, so that's really a hard fact to swallow for the Seminoles down in Tallahassee.
All right, what else we got?
Want to go to thing 2 or?
Yeah, let's do thing 2. Are we going to look at the
let's do
the ratings?
Let's do that tomorrow. How about that?
The rankings?
Yeah, you want to do that tomorrow or do it today?
Well, I mean, they're out today. Why would we?
Fair enough.
It'll be history tomorrow. It's news today.
I guess so. And the AP Top 25, things are pretty solid in the top 4. Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Penn State, and even USC at number 5, and then Washington number 6. The first big jump is the Georgia Bulldogs move up 4 spots to number 7 to get into the top 10. Michigan held at number 8, and then TCU jumps in at number 9. They went up 7 spots to number 9. Wisconsin and Ohio State both drop 1 spot in the polls, but Wisconsin stays in the top 10 in the AP Top 25.
Yeah, TCU didn't quite make it into the top 10 in the coaches poll.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up at number 11, but you're starting to see right now, as generally happens, you're starting to see that group that is developing at the top of the standings. Now, we'll get the committee's poll coming up
3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, 3-4 weeks, somewhere along those lines. And of course, that's the one that matters. But this gives us at least a good jumping off point 4 games into the season for most of these teams, and you know, consistently you're seeing those top 6 sitting right where they are, and more than that, the top 4 I think have been fairly consistent,
steady right there all year. Absolutely.
So you know what that will translate into when we get the first committee poll, who knows? But and of course we've got at least 3 weeks of football before that poll comes out, so a lot can change. But what you do if you're especially Alabama and Clemson, you are building by starting as high as you start, and building the resume you're building right now. And we saw it with Clemson last year. You give yourself some cushion if you happen to have one trip up somewhere. And Clemson lost that game to Pitt, but they did not fall out of the rankings. They ended up number 2 when the season was said and done, and of course went on to win the title. And I think Alabama was number 2 the previous year, and Clemson was number 1 in the committee's rankings when Alabama won the title. So actually number 2, I think, even going back into the BCS, has won 12 of the last 18 1 versus 2 matchups in the national championship game. So that's a pretty decent spot to be in, it would appear. But anyway, a lot of football to go, but that's things are kind of settling right now a little bit at the top, and a lot of scrambling below those top 6.
Oklahoma State fell 9 spots to number 15. Mississippi State fell 7 spots to number 24. LSU jumped back in the ranks at 25. West Virginia and Notre Dame hop back in at 23 and 22 respectively. And obviously, as we said, Florida State fell out, and Oregon fell out of the top 25 this week.
Well, we will say this. Florida State did stay in the coaches poll at number 25, but they're out of the AP poll. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We've got about 9 minutes until the top of the hour, so we'll quickly get through things 2 and 3, get you the trivia question answer, and set you up for tomorrow and the rest of the week as the Dan Scott Show continues right after this. Don't go away.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. Back for the final segment of the show, and a quick reminder about the Walk a Mile project. You see the website, thewhamproject.org. Check out the website. This is a group that is dedicated to international missions work from a Christian church perspective, and they do a lot of work, especially down in Guatemala, with building houses for the homeless and finding fresh drinking water and food supplies and those things. But they also equip other churches and organizations to do the same thing. You're going to be hearing a lot more about them on the show. It's a fantastic organization, the Walk a Mile Project, and there again on screen the website, thewhamproject.org. All right, we've got a couple of more Forest things to get through very quickly before we wrap up the program. Where are we going first?
We're going to go with a high school quarterback here, Alex Houston, out of Glendale High School in Springfield, Missouri. He passed for 824 yards. You did hear that right, 824 yards, and a 69-58 win over Parkview this past weekend. Houston broke 3 records according to the National High School Federation. He broke most attempts, 88, most completions, 70, and obviously most yards of 824. He had 9 TDs and 2 interceptions. He completed passes of 15 different wideouts, and it was also his 9 touchdowns was a Missouri high school record, and that's been tied it. And it's his 3rd time getting that mark of 9 TDs in his high school career. Let's see here. They overall they had 856 yards of offense, so he accounted for, let's just go and say the majority of that.
Yeah, so 32 yards?
Yeah.
We'll try to keep them off balance every once in a while.
There you go. And matter of fact, it was the one rushing TD of the game that was run by Houston to win the game late in the 4th quarter. So didn't even use his arm to win the game. It was his legs that really was the deciding factor in the win over Parkview this past weekend.
That's kind of the other end of the spectrum, where you have a shootout and neither defense can do anything in a game like that, and then a defender intercepts a pass late in the ball game. Defense won the game. Yeah, right. It was the running of the quarterback that won the game. And I told you when you brought that up that a young man. This is going back probably 6-7 years, but a young man from my home county back in West Virginia some time ago named Paul McCoy from Mate 1 High School. That's in Mingo County, West Virginia. At that time, set the national rushing record with 661 yards in a game in a 64-0 win over Birch High School. That record, though, was broken in 2015 by a kid named Journey Brown down in or up in Pennsylvania. I should have said 720 yards rushing.
My goodness.
10 touchdowns and a 107-90 game. 107-90.
That's not going to be good for your points per game there.
No,
Dan.
well, offensively it is.
Yeah, that's true. But in terms of defense, my goodness, that's almost too many points for my liking right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an offensive guy, very offensive, some people would say, but I think I draw the line at 107-90 unless we were talking basketball.
Sure, that's okay with me. But yeah, I'm probably good with the 59-0, which Alabama did this weekend over Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
so that's probably good enough for me in terms of points per game. But
all right, thing three.
Thing three. The New York Yankees are talking Major League Baseball here now. The New York Yankees have clinched a playoff spot, as well as the Arizona Diamondbacks. They've clinched a playoff spot as well, and they will host the National League Wild Card game on October 4th. So the playoff picture is starting to really take hold right now. You only have the East, the Central, and the second wild card spot in each division that are up for grabs. And really, I think the East is going to be captured by the Red Sox with only 9 games left. They're 4.5 games, and the Cubs are up 4.5 games as well, and the Brewers in the Central. So probably going to get that. The only real heated race, I guess, in terms of pure numbers, would be that second wild card spot in the NL, with the Rockies up a game on the Brewers right now.
Yeah, and the Cardinals are still kind of,
I think, a game and a half
hanging on the edge back there
Mm-hmm.
as well. But hey, let's go Rockies.
Yeah. Then Stanton hit his 57th home run on Saturday. He will be in Colorado this week for 3 games, then home against the Braves for 4. So, gonna need to see a big performance out of him this week in order to get that 62 home runs he was hoping for.
In Colorado.
In Colorado.
Oh.
So you could see
the way the ball flies out there. Yeah, he might check swing a home run in Colorado.
You never know.
As big and strong as he is.
And then Aaron Judge hit home runs 47 and 48 this week, and he's one shy of Mark McGwire's rookie record of 87, and it's his 6th multi-home run game, and he's hit 20 home runs against the Orioles and the Blue Jays this year, so he's really pounded the AL East.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him.
All right, we have trivia answer?
Yeah, we do, but we have a couple on these dates.
Okay.
They're pretty cool, I'd say. In 1955, Al Kaline becomes the youngest batting champ at the age of 20. In 1974, Dr. Frank Jobe performs the first Tommy John surgery on Tommy John. He takes a tendon from his wrist and puts it in his throwing arm, and that better be known as Tommy John surgery.
Actually, the first one, didn't he actually take a tendon from a cadaver on Tommy John, and now they take it from the wrist? But I think the first one he took from a cadaver.
From what I read, it said he took it from his wrist, but that's best baseball reference right there. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
So
I'll have to do some research on that, because I'm pretty sure that I read that the first one was done from a cadaver, and now it's actually if you flex your wrist, that tendon right there is what they take out of your wrist
and put it
in the elbow when they do the Tommy John surgery. What was that surgery called before Tommy John surgery?
UCL surgery?
Elbow surgery.
In 1984, Rusty Staub becomes the second player to hit home runs as a teenager and at 40 years plus, joining Ty Cobb. In 2014, Derek Jeter hits a walk-off hit in his last home game as a Yankee to beat the Orioles. And last year, Jose Fernandez tragically dies in a boating accident, so it's been a year since his death. So some pretty cool on this dates, and also some pretty dreary on this dates as well, Dan.
A little bit of a tragedy. Well, not a little bit of a tragedy, a major tragedy. All right, let's get to the trivia question answer.
Yep. Question is, which Paladin defensive player has recorded the most sacks in a single game in the history of the Furman Paladin football?
SoCon John had the player and the year right, but he did not have the number of sacks correct. Is that right?
That is correct, yep. Brian Dowler with 7 in a 43-21 win over Chattanooga in 1997.
7 sacks in a game.
Yeah.
That's getting it done.
That is getting it done, no doubt about that.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for the day. Coming up as the week goes on, we're trying to get the two coordinators for Furman football in with us if their schedules will allow. Offensive coordinator Drew Cronick and defensive coordinator Chad Staggs. We're working on that. We will no doubt have opportunities to talk with both soccer coaches here on campus again, as we did last week and try to do every week, and a lot of college football. Going to try and also schedule this week and every week moving forward, like we did last week, the play-by-play voice of Furman's upcoming opponent. This would be Jay Sandos from East Tennessee State. So once we get all that scheduled, we'll let you know about that. I will also tell you that immediately following this broadcast, as soon as we sign off, on the Campus FM 95.9 and on the station's TuneIn radio page, if you have the app, search WPLS-LP. We're going to replay Furman and Colgate, and it'll air a number of different times today and during the week as well, along with replays of some of our recent shows. But the replay is coming up next here on the show, or on the station.
Good stuff, Dan. So, really fun broadcast, so be sure to tune in for that.
All right, we will say our goodbyes. Look forward to talking with you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you for joining us for across all of our platforms, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. For Forrest, I'm Dan, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.